So my name's Austin. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and this is Rachel. She's also a Marine Corps veteran, and I'm just here to interview her and kind of talk about her experience transitioning out of the Marine Corps. So one of the first questions I want to ask you is that I believe all military members, if I know Marines, go through transition TRS, transition readiness service, and it's basically like a 2-week program to teach people to be civilians again. I don't know how much of that you remember when you go through.
I was gonna say, is it 2 weeks now?
I
Mine
think
was 1 week.
I think okay, maybe it was a week. So yeah, I think one of the things they talked about was they always talk about the transition, and transition's hard. And I think what they don't really cover and what people don't understand about the transition and why it's hard is the fact that, you're not that person who first joined. You're not the person who you were before you joined the military. And when you get out of the military, you're not the person who you were when you were in the military. And so there's this lack of identity in a way. Did you ever kind of get that feeling, like that sense,
Oh, 100%. It's been weird because as soon as I got out, started school so I could live off the BH from the GI Bill. And so it was just like, go, 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 this is just what I have to do to get to the next step. And now that I've just finished that part, I've used up my GI Bill, got my degree, now I'm kind of hitting that again. And I think I'm almost more facing some of those personal issues of not fitting in more than right at the beginning. Because at the beginning it was just go, 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 I'm in school. I was still local around Camp Pendleton, so still around a lot of veterans. But when I transitioned up to UC Berkeley, I was away from that. And now that I've kind of been away from it, it's almost like I'm experiencing it more now than I did at first. But definitely it's been very weird because you don't quite fit in, you kind of fit in, but not really because you're doing things that people are like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
And it's just a different lifestyle. And I don't even remember what I was like before the Marine Corps because that was so long ago and I was so young, I feel like. But definitely you don't know who you are, where you belong, because at least for me it felt like the Marine Corps, you become a type of person in this group. You all just fit it. It's all uniform, whether you're at work or you're off time. And then kind of having that freedom to be even whatever, just like you're whatever afterwards. It's weird because for me, I just haven't really fit in with like anyone since then. I mean, the vets groups help because you're around other people and everyone, of course, just goes in and just talks about all their stories and all their drinking stories. But yeah, it's weird. It's very weird to, not fit in.
So speaking of drinking, so I think one of the problems that people face is that in the military you pick up a lot of habits. Some of them are good, and some are bad, or can lead to be unhealthy. And you might not have came from a background that was okay with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I was from Northeast Mississippi. People do drink there, but I grew up in a dry county,
Mm-hmm.
so I want to say it's not that it was really looked down upon, but in that very small area that if you're looked at as a drunk, it was kind of like negative
Mm-hmm.
thing. And
Yeah.
now living in like San Diego, to where I can just walk down the street and hit some of the really nice bars. It's just a huge change in culture. So I was lucky to kind of stay here.
Mm-hmm.
But people who go back home into those areas, they might face some of those like repercussions where the types of habits they used to have
Mm-hmm.
are not acceptable now anymore.
Yeah.
Did you ever felt anything like that when you got out?
Not so much the drinking, because again, being as well in San Diego, one, it's around still Pendleton and the San Diego bases and Miramar, so there's already that, plus just the civilians here love to drink California in general.
Craft
so
beer.
that's not, craft beer, everything. I mean, you can freaking do that alcohol. But that part, not so much, but it's terrible. Oh, I hate to admit it, but the biggest thing for me was I picked up dipping in the Marine Corps, which even in the Marine Corps, there were some people who were like, that's disgusting, you're a girl dipping, and I always just be like, well, you're a dude dipping, and that's still gross too. and that habit hasn't 100% left me yet, which it probably really should. So I would say that habit is, yeah, that one's the one that's.
I never picked up any tobacco because I just knew I would just get hooked off
That's
of it.
smart.
So I just figured if I never really, I smoked a couple times with my friends when we would go out drinking and stuff like that, but I really tried hard to stay away from it.
That's good. You know, it was the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
like it was when I was in the schoolhouse and I did the whole, excuse my language, but I did the whole, I'm a bitch, I'm a Marine.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll try it,
Yeah.
and then did not think anything of it. I have never done tobacco products before. I had never done drugs, so I've never had that like high of some kind. And I remember the first time trying it, just being like, this is so stupid, you guys are so gross. And then like the little buzz hit me, and I was just like, whoa, okay. And then it came in handy because, well, one, it's not smoking, so it's not like you have to go do a smoke break somewhere. And it was great for deployments, for training, when you're just
Trying
like
to stay awake.
staying awake, trying
Yeah.
to concentrate. So plus it was just the culture. I mean, on my first deployment in my shop, we called it the Tower of Power. And there's probably easily 200 cans of empty dip cans that we stacked up, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, you know. Or people, I would also get, and I know this sounds silly, but whatever. I was like a young Marine, young person, so anything that gets you some kind of attention, like, yeah, I'm a badass. And I would either get that's really disgusting, or dang, that's fucking badass.
Yeah.
Then
It's that whole I ain't no bitch mentality,
exactly.
right? Yeah, that's
and you know the same thing with drinking.
Yeah.
I remember being at one of our balls, and I was at the time, because I joined when I was 20, so I hit 21, of course, before my friends, because we're the same rank, but they're all a little younger, and so I was a little.
That must be kind of weird hanging out.
It was at the time, because it was actually dying out because it wasn't the right time of year because of a deployment, but the way they had us sitting, those who were 21 we were together, but like specific tables were underage. And I remember I was just, because all the officers are getting drunk, everyone's, and it's just like, whatever, it's, we're looking out for each other, but having fun. And I just remember them being like, all right, man, like, baby, and I was like, all right. Well, I won't say what I did say, but basically it was the same thing of, I ain't no bitch, like, I'm a Marine, we drink, that's what we do, like, just saying that, just acting like that, which, looking back, is kind of funny and ridiculous, but I wasn't the only one doing that. Like, that's that culture, and you feel you're a part of it, and so you want to be a part of it, and you feel good, and at that age you're young, and you have that confidence, and you're like, yeah, we're like kicking indoors and doing all this. I didn't ever get to kick indoors, but, I like to feel like I did, as most, I would say, Marines do, so.
Looking back on it, there's definitely a lot of times where I've seen everything from people, hugging each other and crying to just like about to fight, and it's, it's that, but it's kind of, if you say like that, I know we say this a lot in the Marine Corps, like that warrior mentality, and I do think that's part of it, like be good or bad, but this aggressiveness that it gets bred into you as you go through the Marine Corps. There's a lot of utility in that in these certain jobs, and a lot of like jobs that you find in the Marine Corps that you're doing, you kind of have to rely on that competition with your peers and that competition with yourself to keep you in line. And sometimes we do let that like bleed over a little bit too much.
Yes.
And I think it's a hard thing to balance this between where do I draw the line? And a lot of you're in your 21. So people are from the age of 18 to 21, like not the best decision making.
Right. It's like college though. A lot of college kids same time doing the same
pretty
thing.
much.
Yeah.
So you're also a female in the Marine Corps in transition out. What would you say is the hardest part about being a female when you're in the Marine Corps and getting out?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the hardest part, but I think one thing that, like getting out, dealing with whatever issues you're dealing with, and having that kind of, how do you fit in, and when you meet up with veterans and at groups or clubs or whatever, one of the things for me, it's almost like or when you're trying to learn about resources or go to resources, a lot of them, which I mean, there should definitely be the resources for people with PTSD and comment on this, but it's kind of like a weird, like I did deploy, but I was not a grunt, I was not kicking indoors, so yes, I understand I did my part, but at the same time I'm like, well, but I wasn't like kicking indoors, and so it's kind of this weird, and I think we sometimes do that with ourselves, where maybe not rate each other, but you kind of size up each other. It's kind of like, oh, well, you're not a real guy. Oh, you're not this. You're from this branch or this job.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard because there are organizations, there's different things that are like, if you're suffering from PTSD from this, you know, from being blown up, it's like, well, not a smaller portion has been than have not, basically. Yeah. And so it's kind of, I don't know, I guess it's kind of, and then it obviously for females, it's even a smaller portion, so then it's kind of, I guess somewhere with that, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but just kind of, when you get out, because you're away, that's kind of the idea people have of veterans, is that coming out.
Yeah, I agree, is that we are all, you know, because you always see the videos of the interviews of veterans who deployed, and the ones that do get to speak are the guys who undoubtedly have done the hardest job of the military and had to do, you know, get in the middle of the, like some of the roughest fights and basically be put in a situation where they have to act as heroes.
Yeah.
And that's just a small percentage of the military that gets the, like, you know, the opportunity to do things like that. And we all kind of, when you're getting out, you face challenges, and I think a lot of times veterans don't want to get help. It's because they talk themselves out of, you know, this, well, I don't need this because my service was not compared to theirs.
Right, or I'm not as bad off as this person, or that person should get it ahead of me because they are missing 3 limbs. Or, you know, which, again, rightfully so, there are definitely folks who need those things, and I'm glad that there's services being provided for it, and people are you know, wanting to help. But it makes it weird, because then you're like, you don't want to be like, yeah, I do, and then people say, oh, okay, stop being so cocky, and like, you're not, you know, why are you faking it, or why are you being whatever, you know, and then you miss out on opportunities, you miss out on help that you might need. And I think, well, one of the other things for me is being a female, and this was definitely always while I was in as well, but there's been a couple, like, female-centered type of, you know, little expos or whatever, but being grouped in with spouses kind of is like, it's like, well, you don't really have anything, you're just going to be grouped together just because you're all women, like, and there's kind of this, well, that's not the same thing. Yeah. Not, again, trying to downplay any of that at all, but it kind of, it's like, oh, you know, or people don't believe that you serve, like, oh, well, who are you married to, or, oh, well, you were supporting, and it's like, well, no, it was me, like.
Well, you know, and I think they're, like, like, for example, like, you know, you dipping, if people heard, like, oh, a woman was dipping, you know, I don't think they realize that women get indoctrinated just, you know, as much as men do in this culture. You know, I was telling another teacher here that was like, one of the jokes I heard a female Marine made was she told someone to suck her dick. Yeah. And I'm like, you know, that's the kind of humor that you see a lot with everybody. Yeah. Like, it doesn't really matter, you know, your race, gender, or any orientation like that. You know, we're all going to pick fun at each other about everything. Yeah. And it's just that kind of necessary abuse, I guess, from each other. I can see that. From each other, you know, that we've all kind of bought into. Yeah. I think that for me, that was the hardest part about getting used to being in the military, was I had to get used to that. So, like, I'm from a small town.
I was going to say, especially if you're coming from somewhere, that it would be like, whoa. But I think, too, for females, like, that's one of the things is we have to, there's so few of us, that if one of us makes a mistake, which, like any person, people make mistakes, everyone gets labeled with whatever that might be, so then it's just like we have to be extra careful, and I feel like we're almost extra watchful over each other, like, yo, you better not mess up because you're about to ruin it for all of us, kind of thing. But at the same time, the whole indoctrination thing and trying to be part of this group, I almost feel like sometimes we would try harder or feel the need to prove ourselves or to be like, I'm one of the guys in a way. Yeah, which makes it hard, which I think is probably maybe for me, like getting out from having to, like, whether I did or not, just the feeling like I needed to and thinking I needed to, now being out for so long thinking that way, I think now I still feel like I'm always short on things. Like, I need to try harder. I need to be, like, really prove myself on all these things and that might be just for everybody, too, from the military, because I think everyone is pushed to a certain
it's over heightened competitiveness.
Yeah. So I think that definitely comes out and makes it hard because with the transition. I mean, the Marine Corps especially, and really because, I'm from the Marine Corps, so that's what I really know, but because we're in Afghanistan, we have which it is out of necessity. I mean, the Marine Corps is there for war. So, of course, you can't have people who are going to be like super peace, love, and happiness because, well, they're not going to want to do what's needed. So it's kind of, everyone being disgruntled and having this, enjoying the suck together, really. And so I don't think there's a great transition or helping. There's a week of TRS, which for me, TRS was really just about how to use your GI Bill, how to write a resume, and they throw so much information just at you, like a doctor, and then you're done. But there's no real, at least when I went, there was no real transition. Like, here's things you're going to go through, like, mentally, and here, like, it would be great if they had, I don't know, former service members come in and be interviewed or have videos of them to kind of over it.
For us, I think they had like one or two, but it's it's just a week, and I got really lucky because my unit, I had a really good unit consistently. I was always consistently I was in a good unit and had good leadership, and I know that for the most part that's not people's story. I've had talked to people to where they said they were pretty much used and abused till the day they got out, and then they didn't have time to make a plan. They didn't have time to. There's kind of this administration, on paper it looks like they've had time, but in reality they're still doing things. They're still doing they're still doing GCSS, which I don't remember what the acronym means, but basically that's ordering all the broken gear, making, trying to get gear up, making missing gear statements, doing a lot of extremely intuitive administration processes for the Marine Corps, and not preparing themselves. For me, I was consistently interviewed by my staff NCO and by my both officers. That we got a new lieutenant right when I was about to get out. He wasn't new; he was just new to us. Gotcha. So he was in our sister platoon. So he just got swapped over to us, and then he was like, "What's your plan? What's your plan, Reed?" And so, I already told my first lieutenant when my plan. Told him, he was like, "Look, stick to." The best advice I think he gave me, because he was former recon. Oh wow. He was a recon and enlisted and became an officer.
Oh cool.
So he was like, know your plan your dive and dive your plan. So I always think, and it's just some of those the small things that wasn't you hear when you go out through your life, Yeah. So I think about that a lot when I plan to do something. I'm like, okay, basically plan it and follow through your plan. So so far, how would you describe your transition? Has it been, easy, hard, or pleasant? Not pleasant.
Not pleasant. I mean, there's been sure some good times.
Yeah.
When the first couple months after I got out, I think were pretty good because, well, one, I was still in Marine Corps shape, so it was I'm just great. Did some traveling and got into school, and I was oh, this isn't so bad. Okay, I like this, and then it just it seemed to get steadily worse. Okay, I did finish my degree, so at least I did that, which is cool. But it was difficult because, well, I'm a real veteran. See, I was going through a divorce as I was getting out, so that made it extra hard, which is actually probably one of the main reasons I did get out. And honestly, my biggest regret so far is that I did get out. And looking back at it, and now that things are just not really working out right now, I'm like, I really wish I never got out. I'd be pretty much halfway to retirement right now, and so that lately has been spinning in my head. But that definitely made the transition hard because not only, the transition itself, getting out, starting school from never have going to college in the past, getting a divorce. I would say it was about 6 months before I got out was when I got back from my last deployment. And moving and just doing all that stuff, and it was all at once. And so when that did finally hit, it was like, wow, this is like a lot. This is not fun. And I think what made it at the time like extra worse was my support system was like gone, because all of my friends, I was very fortunate, I was in the same unit my whole time. I had some great friends from there. Well, everyone else was getting out at the same time or a little bit after me, and pretty much no one stayed local. Everyone moved back home, whereas I stayed here because I didn't have a home to go back to. And I do love California, as stupidly expensive as it is. And so that made it hard, because now I'm dealing with everything, don't have the friends anymore, not fitting in. I did start school and like hang out with the vets club, and that was kind of cool, and it would like help, but it wasn't the same. I wasn't actually going and hanging out with anyone. We weren't getting together. I wasn't close to anyone. And honestly, since then, I have not been super close with anyone since my friends from the Marine Corps. So I think that's made it extremely hard, and I don't have family here, and I'm not super close to family. So for me, there's been and I haven't been in a relationship since my ex. So there has been no like support with that, which at times makes it like extremely lonely, and then just extremely like, where do I fit in?
Yeah.
Like I'm just kind of floating.
To me, I think, do you think it's because you're like comparing your relationships to the ones you had in the Marine Corps? Is that type of friendship,
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, and like I have friends, I've made friends, but I haven't like honestly gone and hung out. It's not like I go over people's place or they come hang out with me. Or we go all hang out. Recently, I will say there's been a couple groups like here where we've gone out, and like a couple of us will go, and that's been real nice. Like that's been kind of, oh cool, okay, like again, this is nice. But I haven't had, just that, like some people that you can count on. There's been times where, I need someone, or like, I don't know, there was a time I went to the ER and then I was out of work for a week. I didn't have anyone to help. I mean, I had a neighbor who was able to walk my dogs, but it was like, I didn't have anything. I had friends, but none of the people who would be like, hey, are you okay? Do you need anything?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, well, that sucks. So I would say I do compare it to what I had then, but I really don't think I've had anything like I had.
For me, I always tell my wife, like, I'll tell her sometimes, like, oh, I miss the boys. And she knows exactly who I'm talking about when I say I miss the boys.
Yeah.
Because these were the guys that were on my workout for deployment. Before then, we knew each other in a unit, and they were the guys, like, I looked up to, and they helped train me. Mm-hmm. And, we went through a lot of crap together. And then did the deployment, came back, and then we all just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And like, until this, even though like when we deployed, like we didn't really see each other that a lot, mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure if I called any of them up now, like, hey, I need some help, whatever, mm-hmm. They would probably like will still be willing to like give the shirt off their back for it, and me the same. And those are the type of relationships I think when you get out as a veteran, it's that kind of hole in your heart you're always trying to look to fill in another way. And even though like you might not have gone into combat and like have been in a combat situation, like you get such a strong bond with people, mm-hmm. That's really hard to fix that. Like there's one of my friends who he was like my best friend, still one of my best friends, mm-hmm. Nothing in common. Not a single thing in common. Like I'm a nerd. He's kind of like a man's man, Okay. So I don't watch football. He watches football. I play D&D. He doesn't. I think the only thing we have in common is that we both play Xbox. That's about it.
And you were in the Marine Corps.
And we were in the Marine Corps. And then like one of my best friends. Yeah. One of my best friends, like to this day, to where like I know if like I call him like, hey, mm-hmm. And we didn't deploy together, but I'm like, hey, I need some real help. and he would help me. Like he let me and my wife live with him for
Oh wow.
about a year. Yeah.
Oh wow.
While we're in, so like, you know, and it's just one of those things to where I don't think I could have gone. I don't know if I'm ever gonna work somewhere again to where it's like, hey, you need somewhere to live. You can you can live with us for, you know, let's say you need help. You know, it's that type of relationship. Yeah, I think when people go back home, especially in their like smaller communities or there's just no veteran community around, I think that's kind of what they miss. You know. Do you, I was going to ask, do you regret renting out, but I think you kind of already answered that.
Gosh darn it, I do. I'd be halfway to retirement. Tag on it.
Do you feel like it's hard to relate with people now?
Yes and no. Because I guess like the people that I have seen, like since I got out being in school, like I said, the vets groups, the vets club, those are the people that if I am hanging around people, that's who. So there'll be still the same jokes and like you can still say the same thing and we all still drink like well, maybe not quite as much as we used to. Can't really hang as much anymore. So I relate with that. But I do think for me, one thing that, and this just might be not necessarily Marine Corps oriented and maybe just getting older, but I feel like my anxiety has gotten way worse and like people don't understand that, and like when it's really bad and I think about it, it makes me think of back when I was in and like not dealing with that and just kind of, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, I'm not making sense. Just like with some of that stuff, like the pressures and the how things have changed, I don't feel like other people, like my family, understand at all. And I don't, like, even if I try to explain some stuff to them, I don't even know if they want to understand. I've seen that with some people where you kind of like try to explain like why you're feeling a certain way for whatever reason since getting out, dealing, you know, specifically with the transition. And some people just are kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, or like they're not really, you know, interested, or they'll jump in and be like, oh, is it because you have PTSD? And you're like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's just, I can't, you know, and so
it's really
I'm
hard
saying that, people don't.
It's really hard to find this in between to explain to people that, no, I'm not like dealing with PTSD, but I'm just like feeling, I'm just feeling some hardship, and I think at the time when you're going through it, you don't really know how to identify it.
Yeah.
And you're kind of nervous about even trying to get the tools to identify it because you're like, well, why? Like I don't feel like I didn't have to go kicking doors. I didn't have to pull the trigger. Or I didn't have to watch the guy next to me get blown up. That type of major stress and stuff like that. So, because when I learned that, I think it was VA. Someone put out a study about how more non-deployed veterans kill themselves than the deployed ones. Yeah. So I think it's just kind of mentality about if you're struggling and you've deployed, that's okay. But if you're struggling and you haven't deployed, there's something wrong with you. That type of criticism. So I kind of want to help break that stigma, a little bit with people, especially if they're and people who ever eventually get to listen to this and hear and realize like, I got out, it could have been like someone Air Wing and is going through.
Man,
so.
swing with the word.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Okay, whatever. I'm just saying. I was with Hueys and Cobras, so that was pretty cool.
Those are fun. Those
are my favorite, and I love them.
Is any
love you, Skid Kids.
I think the cool part, because I get to work with other units and other branches, is that every single unit and branch has like their own little subculture kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes, so, that's true.
Is there anything crazy about the air unit specifically that you care to share?
Oh gosh, I don't know. You know what? My friends were listening to me because like pretty much most of them were maintainers, so they'd be like, "Yeah, you got your nice off." I was not a maintainer. I was lucky. Okay, I get that. I would actually get a lot of crap for that. It's like in our unit there was, oh, you're in your office and you're, but whatever. Then some people get jealous because I get to like be privy to certain things that they were not, and then it was like, oh, and I'm like, well, you know, in my office, sorry. But then you just have that back and forth. I mean, we still get along. That's like who some of my closest friends were from, you know, other areas. But yeah. I mean, even our pilots, because again, we have two different aircraft, and even there'd be like competition between, Hueys are better, Cougars are better, between the flight line, like all the different type of aircraft, and you know, and then between the ground and the air. It's just like, I think we all just really, we want that. We have to have that competition. We have to always be recruiting who's better for whatever reason.
But you see that, you know, and you can get that anywhere between, like, you know, artillery, mortarmen, you know, fixed wing or rotor wing, which one's better, you know.
100%. I mean, between the shops, between like ordnance and flight line,
we had two companies that did basically the same job, and we would compete on who's better. So it's like, it was, you know, we're both trained to do the same thing, and which we both agreed. It was like Alpha and Bravo. We both agreed we were both better than Charlie. So.
Okay. Well, there you go. As long as you can combine and be against the third, then
there's always that third unit that's a good crap on them.
That's true, though. Then at least we're not that. And then you become like besties, and you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. It's funny.
What advice would you give to anybody that's transitioning out or thinking about transitioning?
Save money. That's a big one. That's just like definitely save money. Do not waste your GI Bill. Like, plan for that. Don't go using your GI Bill and just fail your classes just to get the money, because there's repercussions when you fail classes. You might not be able to use your benefits anymore for a certain school, and then you've wasted your benefits. Now you don't have a degree, and then you need a degree for many jobs. Even if you just do certificate programs or trade jobs that the GI Bill will cover, like, totally use that and try to do it as smartly as possible. Get a lot of help and advice and counseling if you need to, but totally use that. Reach out to any of the veterans organizations. They have like, of course, the VA. If you're at a school, reach out to the clubs, the groups, the counties. Counties all have veterans reps that can, you know, get you to different resources. The VFW, if you qualify. I know there's like a ton of them, but like, reach out, try as early as possible before it really hits you, because I think when you first get out, you're in that blissful moment. I'm gonna do 214. I mean, for you guys, you're like, I'm not shaving. Me, I'm just like, I'm not putting hair gel on my hair. And so, you know, you're kind of, you don't maybe think you need anything yet, but you want to be prepared for when it actually happens. Like, be aware that it is going to happen. Even if you think, man, I'm not gonna miss this, I'm not gonna, like, there is going to be, you are going to go through something. So try to prepare yourself before you get to that point. Think of it like when you have cold medicine in your medicine cabinet for the time that you get sick. So you have medicine when you're ready. Stay connected as much as you can with the people you're close with. Try to be around support. So, I mean, for me, like I said, I got out and I had support, but then everyone left, and that was really tough. So if you can move back home to my family, if that's where you want to go, or by your friends or whatever, try to really just, you know, have that wherever you go, and just be aware and understanding that you are going to go through that stuff. And I would say just allow yourself to do it, because you're gonna like let yourself, you know, hopefully as healthfully as possible go through it. Let the emotions happen, work through it, seek help if you need to, whether that's counseling or friends or whatnot. But get some type of like relief of it, instead of just turning to things that you shouldn't be, that are going to just make things a lot worse for you. I guess that would be, I think that would be everything.
You know, if you wanted anybody to know about any, like, if you wanted to tell people that might be that might have, I don't want to phrase it. For people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, or feel like they're going through the same thing that you're going through, the people that are around them, that have to deal with them and are interacting with them every day, what would you want them to know?
Oh, okay. Be understanding.
Okay.
Don't judge them. Don't tell them how it is. Don't tell them, well, you should be doing this, or, you know, be this way. I once had someone, I was going through kind of a depressed time. I didn't really want to get out. I didn't really want to do much, which I know isolation is bad, but sometimes going out, like when you're in too sensitive, I guess, I can't think of a better word, of a time where you're just like too, like you can't even, I don't know, get out of bed or something. Sometimes going out is almost too painful, where it actually has like negative effects on it. And so I had a person, they're like, come on, come on. I was like, no, like I'm really, you know, I hadn't really had much support. I was trying to deal with stuff, and they're like, I've never heard of a depressed person like that not helping them. Like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, you need to just get out and just come out and come hang out. And it was just kind of, it was just like this, that's not what I need. I know that's not what I need right now. And it wasn't, it kind of sucked. It was like, okay, thanks. It wasn't very compassionate. It wasn't very understanding. So for anyone around someone who's going through things, you know, it might be best maybe to look up signs of things so you're aware of, okay, that's what they're going through. And also to keep track if someone gets too deep, because obviously there are, like, yes, we're going to go through things, but if someone gets too far, I mean, I've had 4 friends that I know who've committed suicide. And so if you know of the warning signs, if you're keeping track of, like, okay, they're kind of working through something right now, or they're feeling a certain way, but if you start seeing them get, like, too much, like they really are isolating, like they're not going out and eating or going and getting food, you know, whatever, like that would be good so that you can step in if you need to. You don't want to be too pushy because you push someone in the wrong direction. But really the biggest is just being compassionate and understanding, and not, you know, trying to say, oh, you're not this or you are this.
Yeah, it might, you know, they might be pushing them to go bar hopping when they really should just be going to a movie,
right.
You know, or going to like, hey, let's just go to Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, exactly. So pay attention if someone, you know, there is, of course, we hang out, and especially if you're fellow veterans and you're doing the drinking thing. But if you're recognizing, like, hey, this is beyond a certain point, don't encourage it. Don't be like, hey, you should really stop drinking, because no one wants to hear that. Also, don't tell someone you should be on crazy pills or you should be on pills. Like, watch how you're saying things, because then when you say that, it comes out and that person's going to be like, seriously, and probably get worse. So pay attention to that in a constructive way. Maybe bring up the issues and redirect.
It's kind of like watch how you're criticizing them.
Yeah, for sure, and how you might be contributing or allowing something to get worse.
Again, I mean, I probably should have studies on me on hand, but there was one about how the effects of transitioning in the military usually don't. It's like a 5-year period of that's the dangerous time. It's 5 years. It's like basically 5 years out. Like it's not. Because you think, oh, it's like the first month of uncertainty. Yeah. It's like, no, it's like 5 years of uncertainty.
So I'm almost done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I could see that, because like I said, when I first got out, again, you're kind of in that, like, oh, okay, I'm out. Like, there's this new thing, and you're like, I'm out. Like, a lot of people think this is what I want. But then as time goes on, you know, and like for me, I went right into school, and so it was like my next mission, if you will. And I'm doing what I need to. And now that it's been 4 years, and I have completed a degree now, and I've used that up. 1, I don't have the BH, and the jobs I have now aren't making as much, so I can't even afford an apartment right now. And so now it's kind of like the tail end, and many people are very successful, and I wish I was a lot more successful than I am right now, and I think part of it has been like my mental state of not being able to really like achieve more. Like, I would put that on myself, you know, that I did not prepare, I guess. And so, that makes sense, because people are going through that, and many who go to school, and typically it's about 4 years, you know, and then once that kind of goes away, maybe you've chewed up all your savings from when you were in, and maybe relationships suffer, and now maybe you have gone through divorce, or I know many people who've had kids since then, and so now you have all these other life factors. Because I'm in the military, at the time, many people don't think it's that great. But once you're out and you're like, wow, okay, I had healthcare, I had dental, because we're not even talking about VA healthcare. And, you know, I had all this stuff. I had a steady paycheck that, you know, some people would say is not enough, and maybe it's not, I don't know. But I mean, for one, if you live in the barracks, you have housing. Maybe, I mean, it's not a house, but you have housing, you have food, and then you get your paycheck.
Yeah.
If you're out of the barracks, you get the BH, which is always a decent amount because it's average cost of, you know, wherever you're at. Yeah. As long as you're like kind of decent with your money, and then you have your paycheck on top. Plus, you have all the other benefits, so you're not having to pay for that extra stuff. Whereas once you're out, you don't have that, and depending on where you're at, it is a lot harder than you think. And I think that's an extent. So like right at first, you're not experiencing that, but little by little, as time goes on, and sometimes some things, you know, like after a traumatic experience, whatever that might be, or something happens, you may not experience those maybe nightmares or anxiety or anything until a little bit later. For whatever reason, I don't really know why, but it doesn't creep out till later. So I could see why, you know, after that initial getting out, that stuff starts creeping in, which starts affecting all your other stuff, your jobs, maybe your schooling, you know, your relationships. And then now you've been out even longer, you're away from more people. As people move away, you know, especially if you're not around support, because this is personally how I felt, you know, I'm not around family, I'm not close to family anyway, it makes it just really hard.
Yeah.
So I could see that. That's interesting.
You know, just like me and my wife are gonna move. We've been planning to move out of California for a while, and it's just mainly because the cost of living is so high that. I mean, I did the math, and I was like, yeah, Tennessee is pretty nice, you know, and it's easier to live, cheaper to live there. And, you know, I feel like a lot of people kind of feel like they feel trapped, you know, in the area they kind of want to live in and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think a lot would help a lot of people is just knowing, like, hey, think about, you know, I think what really helped me was kind of dreaming, like almost like dream building while I was in the military. Like I had, like there's things I just wanted to do in life and stuff like that. That was one of the things that motivated me getting out. And also like I was, you know, the Marine Corps is also very hard in relationships and stuff like that. And actually getting out has been harder on me and my wife than staying in. Yeah. And so which I plan, you know, to that not always be the case and stuff like that. But I think for me what helped me prepared was I didn't downplay in my mind when they said like this was going to like transition is hard, but I think I was unprepared to know what the transition was. And I don't think a lot of people were set because they're in their mind they're equating it back to when they're getting out of high school and then waiting to go to the military, right? Or they were just getting out of college and didn't join the military. Stuff like that. So
I think too, it makes me think of a lot of people. Like we're kind of told, oh, you have a military background, you're gonna be set. You're gonna get a job. Everyone's gonna want to hire you.
Yeah, it's not always the case.
Some people sure do, and you know, some places you get extra points for being a veteran. But it's not that easy, and I think some people when they're going through TRS or whatever might city like, oh, it's not gonna be bad, I'll be able to get a job, and then they get out and they're like, oh, okay, maybe not, or what you're getting is not enough to live on.
Yeah. Or you might have, like for me, I don't want to do what I did in the military anymore. And then also I don't want to do security.
Yeah. That's true.
You know, there's a lot of security companies that are hidden. Like I got hit up, and they're like, "Oh, you should work." I'm like, "I'm 5'4", man. I'm not the kind of guy. I'm not the guy you want to work security." You know. Like,
you never know. You never know.
Look, there's things you know you're good at. This is not one of them.
Well, that's good.
You know, if I could keep a rifle on me, that'd be fine. But you know, if it came down to fisticuffs, I'd be like, I'd probably bet on the guy with a longer reach.
Well, it's always good to know your
strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, is there anything you want? Any last remarks or anything you want to say?
No, I was trying to think of something funny to say, but I can't.
Any funny stories while you're in the military?
Ooh.
And embarrassing? I'm just kidding.
You know, I don't know.
You know.
I don't know. I don't think I had like too many super embarrassing ones. A lot of funny ones, but they're just, you know, everyone being ridiculous somewhere or other people being ridiculous, which I won't share their stories, but they keep me entertained in my own head. Yeah. No, I guess not.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.